Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the government is now moving closure on their piece of legislation in order to, what they claim, say, fast-track projects for our nation, but without getting rid of Bill C-69, without getting rid of Bill C-48, without getting rid of the industrial carbon tax, and without getting rid of the production cap. I'm going to ask the Minister, what is the point in fast-tracking legislation to have a one-stop shop where people can just hear the word no?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would point the member to page 1 of the Liberal platform. We just had an election, as the member probably recalls, where we solicited a mandate to move very, very quickly on 2 important fronts. To reduce interprovincial trade barriers, which cost us billions of dollars and points on our gross domestic product, therefore making Canada poorer, and secondly, to accelerate, indeed, accelerate the construction of major projects in the country.
Questions and comments. Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like the government leader to explain. The Bloc members have expressed in recent days of debate different concerns that we believe are very serious, particularly in terms of the adoption of this bill so quickly. Does the Government House Leader, well, did he listen to what the members of the Bloc have said? I think it makes sense. Does he not think that we should study this further rather than rushing this bill through, a bill that could have a very serious impact for the future of Canada and Quebec?
The Leader du Gouvernement.
The Honourable Government House Leader. I'll say in French what I have just answered in English to my honourable colleague from the Conservative Party. We have just had an election, Mr. Speaker. On page 1 of the Liberal Party's electoral platform, we mention the necessity to act quickly in the interest of the Canadian economy. First, to create one single economy, not 13, and thus enrich Canadians, each individually. And secondly, to move forward quickly with major projects across the country.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Manning.
It's nice to hear that the government wants to build special projects, pipelines in specific that Alberta has been asking for a long time. But the same exact government have put barriers for these projects to go through. Bill C-69, Bill C-48, and they're still in place. I'm not sure how can they explain to Canadians how they're going to build the projects while the barriers that they put in place is going to prevent those projects from happening.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, as that member surely well knows, I know him to be a very studious member of Parliament and a constructive member of Parliament. As he sure knows, this is a major step towards accelerating the kinds of projects that member himself purports to support.
So I'll just remind colleagues, this is the first time this type of debate has happened during this Parliament, that when we do the questions and comments, preference is given to the opposition members for this type of question and comments, not to the exclusion of government members, but the preference is given. Yes, the Honourable.
Point of order. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, my understanding of going through this process is you're correct that government members will get questions, but then that would take priority over independents.
Yeah, there is a preference given, obviously, to the opposition, but yes, government will get not to the exclusion of independent members, but there will be that preference given. Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bill C-5 was just introduced to the House for debate on Friday. We've only had a few hours of debate on this already. Liberals are up to their old tricks again, trying to ram through legislation without giving Parliament the opportunity to actually debate this bill. We know that it's already not repealing the No More Pipelines Act. We know it's not repealing the No More Tankers Act. We know that this is not going to help with anything in resource development. So my question to them is, why are the Liberals back up to their old ways of shutting down debate and undermining democracy?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would point the member to the support of, just this morning, Canada's building trades unions, 13 premiers from provinces and territories, and to say nothing of an election campaign where we extensively debated the very issues that that the member is purporting to support. This is the government's response to those. We have outlined a process for accelerating major projects into the future. This bill is an important first step.
Honourable member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, we have a government that is hiding behind its election platform, saying that it's promised this, but never mentioned in their platform that the government would come forward with a motion to amend 13 laws, many regulations, including those on the environment, and to accelerate approval for projects like pipelines. They seem to have superpowers that have never been seen in the history of a government. Even Stephen Harper would have not dared to propose this. Can the government explain why it is in such a rush to muzzle the Parliament and go ahead with legislation that's against public interest? Clearly, the member did not read our election platform, and we did debate to quite some extent this document during our election campaign. It is time to unite people in our country and invest in infrastructure of national interest at a scale that has never been seen for generations. National projects to unite Canada in a sustainable way for generations to come. And I could go on, Mr. Speaker. Quebecers, Canadians expect from us, all of us in this House, to take action and take action quickly.
Deputy Government.
Speaker, I want to take the opportunity to thank the Minister for taking questions. Maybe the Minister can expand on what this bill is going to do to remove the barriers that are preventing a lot of workers from being able to work amidst these unjustified and illegal tariffs, Mr. Speaker, and the importance of fulfilling the mandate to remove internal trade barriers across Canada.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
That's an excellent question, and we know that internal trade barriers, they have a cost. They come at a great cost to our economy, to the personal, individual wealth of all Canadians, but the member makes an extraordinarily good point. It also comes at a cost to working men and women in the skilled trades, in private sector unions, right across this country, Mr. Speaker. Men and women who want a chance to, say, move across the country with their credentials to be enabled to work on these major projects. That's why Canada's building trades unions, IBEW, go check it out. Endorsements across the board from Canada's union movement.
Some comments. Now, member for Courtney Alberni.
Speaker, we just heard from the Grand Chief of the Anishinaabe Nation, the Ontario Regional Chief, Abraham Benedict. They cited the potential infringement of the constitutional their rights in terms of their obligations around free, prior, and informed consent, and that, Mr. Speaker, this violates the United Nations Declaration on the Rights on Indigenous Peoples. Mr. Speaker, they're asking for time for this bill to be studied properly so that their voices are heard. Why is this government ramming through this legislation without giving the Indigenous peoples an opportunity to provide insight and input on this legislation, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, I thank the honourable member, and of course Section 35 rights are constitutionally protected in Canada, and UNDRIP, as we know, has a principle of free, prior, and informed consent. It's about working together, Mr. Speaker, in an atmosphere of partnership and respect. We are, of course, seeking meaningful participation and partnership from Indigenous peoples, and I would remind the member that that includes Indigenous peoples who are advocating for major projects to be accelerated in their regions to foster high-paying jobs and prosperity for their people.
Questions, comments. I'm a member for Kamloops, Shuswap, Central Rockies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And it appears that the Liberals not only don't want to answer questions, but they don't even want to take the questions. Questions that we've asked and they have failed to answer. Questions like consensus. What does consensus mean moving forward with these major projects? We've seen that Premier Eby from BC has said no pipelines through BC. Who has veto power and what is consensus is what I'd like to ask this minister.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you. Well, the honourable member well knows that the way we get things done in this country is by working together with Indigenous peoples, with provinces, with cities, with unions, with private sector investment. That's the way we are going to move forward. We're going to move forward, yes, with consensus, getting those investment decisions made, having good, strong, well-paying jobs involved in the construction and operation of these major projects. Consensus is what is at the heart of this very bill, Mr. Speaker.
That's right. The honourable member for La Pointe-à-l'Île. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague has said we presented our program during our election, but there's nowhere in their program that says that it would grab unprecedented powers for a government to be able to take power through executive orders and remove any promoters from any legislation. We heard my Conservative colleague talk about GC strategies and ArriveCan, and now they're also muzzling us and giving the government the power to remove promoters from any application or enforcement of the law, even if they've said that there's concerns and it could endanger people's health. So I don't understand at all why my colleague, well, they never said during their election that they would take such power. I think that the member did not listen to our leader when he mentioned the necessity, yes, the necessity to move forward with royal consent of such a bill before Canada Day, which will give my esteemed colleague to celebrate because we will free up investment opportunities in our country while removing barriers that separate Quebec from other provinces and each other that will create wealth, opportunity for Quebecers. The Bloc was against us during our campaign, and now we're 44 Quebec Liberals on this side of the House.
Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, and it's just like the Liberals typically, they'll say one thing during an election and do something completely different once they've been elected. They refuse to repeal C-69, C-48, the shipping ban, but also the minister is talking about all these jobs this is going to create, but at the same time, they refuse to repeal C-50, the just transition, which will cost 200,000 jobs in energy, 290,000 jobs in agriculture, 1.4 million jobs in construction. So why won't the government send a clear signal to investors and working Canadians by repealing C-50, C-69, and C-48 and truly show Canada's open for business?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, that question betrays that member's absolute lack of consultation with working people in Alberta, in working with working people in Alberta and across this country. Of course, workers in this country want to be in on renewable technologies and the new economy. That's what sustainable jobs is about. But we also want to create new openings, new possibilities, new infrastructure, and yes, new resource development in this country, in Alberta and elsewhere. This member knows that, and that question betrays a profound lack of knowledge of the stake.
Questions, comments.
No, member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Listen, seems surrealistic. We have the government that's saying, with somewhat of a condescending manner, that you didn't read their election platform. Of course we said this. What I have noticed this morning is that we're facing a very government that's in a rush to push through a highly controversial legislation because they know both Canadians and Quebecers would not react favorably to the study of this bill, which would be unacceptable. What they're trying to do is wanting to put people in front of a fait accompli and denying democracy. Nowhere was it written by this Liberal government that they would push away democracy.
Monsieur le Président, par définition.
By definition, everything that happens in this chamber is democratic. The member across the way is criticizing our bill, and I would suggest that he should go speak to Quebec's government and all of the players in that area, whether they're economic players, the Chamber of Commerce, or the FTQ, or union members. He should speak with them. united people who are standing behind this possibility of starting big projects and having a wide vision in Quebec and creating wealth in Quebec.
Comments. The Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We all know well, as the Government House Leader has explained in his opening remarks, was the fact that at the end of the day, we had an election on April the 28th.
That's right.
And let there be absolutely no doubt there was a mandate that was given to every member of the House of Commons, no matter what political party. And that was that they want to see a stronger, healthier Canadian economy. And the leader of the Liberal Party, the new Prime Minister with a new administration, made a commitment by July 1 to pass this type of legislation. Without this form of a procedure, Mr. Speaker, we will not be able to achieve that. The opposition knows full well.
The Honourable Minister. Order. Order.
That's an extraordinary question that goes to the heart of this issue. The heart of this issue, Mr. Speaker, is that we hear about democracy in this chamber. We just had the ultimate democratic test. And you know what we heard? All of us, everyone in this chamber, we heard, get moving, get this country moving. We need a response to the threats coming from down south. We have a plan, a Liberal plan, to put before the people and pass before July 1st. That's what we're doing.
Since comments, I remember Prince George, Prince River, Northern Rockies, in that order.
Mr. Speaker, I find it ironic the member from Winnipeg just got up and said our Canadian economy's on the rocks. Well, guess which government's been in power for the last 10 years? It's his government. But the part that I think is more difficult for Canadians watching today is they were sold a bill of goods that this was supposed to be a new Prime Minister, a new government. But this government's doing exactly what the previous government did for the last 10 years. When it didn't get its way, it would ram things through this Parliament. Please, for all Canadians, explain how this government's different than the last 10 years of the last Trudeau government.
Good question. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, guess which party's been in opposition for the last 10 years? And that means that they should, I think, rally themselves to a solution, a set of solutions that will enrich Canadians in every one of their ridings, contribute to our gross national product, that will create opportunity for working men and women, investments in this country from coast to coast to coast. That member should look in the mirror, get behind our plan.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, let's be clear. The government's saying anything and everything today. There was nothing in the Liberals' election platform about limiting debate, democratic debate, and preventing the opposition from doing its job with legislation that gives superpowers. It's almost like the War Measures Act. They're repealing their own democratically voted on rights. It's bad for the environment, all this without public debate. It wasn't in their platform. They should say where they indicated, because nobody voted for this. The Honourable Government House Leader. I would encourage my colleague to go to page 1. You don't have to look very far. It's on page 1. There's a mention of the need for action. The Prime Minister abundantly spoke about the need for action. He said that when we arrived here, we were going to table legislation and we were going to pass it before July 1st to give people a present for Canada Day, and it would create jobs and investment opportunities and the rest.
The Liberals are presenting Bill C-5, their so-called Free Trade and Labour Mobility in Canada Act, as a serious effort to strengthen the economy. But once again, it's all promise and no plan. They promised homes, none built. Promised pipelines, none delivered. Promised a budget, still missing. Now they've tabled another bill filled with talking points, but no mention of pipelines, no plan for infrastructure, and no answers on how this will actually move our economy forward. It's the same Liberal formula. Big talk, no delivery, no pipelines, no housing, no budget, just headlines. So, Mr. Speaker, if the government wants to unlock the economy, why are pipelines and major infrastructure missing entirely from this so-called productivity plan? Or is this just another press release?
Yeah, Minister.
Well, I welcome the member to the House, and hopefully she can convey the same urgency that she just conveyed in her question to her own caucus colleagues. Canada is at an economic crossroads, Mr. Speaker. Canada does require measures that will provoke investment and create opportunity for working men and women right across this country. That is precisely what this bill knows. I suspect that member knows it all too well, just hasn't been able to convince her colleagues of it yet.
L'honorable député de Saint-Jean.
The honourable member for Saint-Jean. I'd like to thank my colleague, and I've been hearing that about the campaign promise to pass this by July 1st. I find that a bit ironic because either they expected to have a majority or they really just fully disregard the work of Parliament by making a promise like that. Which is it, the Honourable Minister? Mr. Speaker, as my colleague knows full well, yes, indeed, we have a minority Parliament, and you know what? It makes the other side uncomfortable. It means they have to make choices. They have to make choices, and that's what Quebecers have asked us to do, what each province, what unions have asked us to do, what business people have asked us to do. Basically, in all segments of civil society, they're calling on us to take action on behalf of the economy, to respond to the U.S. and create opportunity here. And that's precisely what we're doing.
Mr.
Speaker, I just have a couple of simple questions here. It really is quite perplexing. Who's been in power for the last 10 years? Who passed legislation that shut down pipeline expansion and development? Who put in the no-tanker ban? Who brought in all of these types of legislation that have constricted our economy, held back our economy, and talked down our oil, gas, and natural resource and energy sector for 10 years? It wasn't this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, it was that side of the House. Now all of a sudden they want us to believe that they've had a backflip and a road to Damascus, that they now believe in energy development? I wonder if they can please explain this to the People's House.
Government House Leader.
Thank you to the member who's riding. I know well. I very much doubt there'll be a tanker going up the St. John River anytime soon. But what I will say, Mr. Speaker, what I will say is that in New Brunswick and right across this country, whether it be in St. John, whether it be in any other province in this country, major projects have been put on the table. Those major projects require our attention, and that means that member's attention too. He doesn't get to shirk his responsibility. Yes or no, up or down, major projects now, yes or no?
The
honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, I hear our colleague on the opposite side saying that it is in our platform that we mentioned the need. Well, the need is not to limit debate. The need reminds me of that expression, the ends justify the means, that you can justify anything, including violence, with that kind of attitude. So here we have a government that say they're going to consult the provinces and the First Nations, but they don't even want to consult the members of Parliament. So it's unacceptable, this closure motion, and I hope that opposition members will vote against it. The Honourable Minister, Mr. Speaker, by definition, everything that happens here requires choices to be made, and those are democratic choices. I'm not sure I understood the member's question, but I would suggest he speak to the Premier of Quebec, that he speak to Quebec unions, that he speak to Quebec business people and all the players in the Quebec economy who have been saying loud and clear, move, take action now. The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, as my colleague said, we're at a crossroads. Canadians have spoken clearly, and Canadians deserve better than the type of debate that's happening here today, which is just for sound bites for social media. Canadians deserve a real conversation. So I'd like my colleague to talk to me about the criteria in the bill that will ensure that consensus and keeping our commitments to protect the environment are truly at the heart of this bill. What are those criteria? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague who just asked a substantial question, because everything we've heard this morning so far has been questions about process and proceduralism. But as my colleague knows full well, and I know she has consulted the wording of the bill, which in no way exempts us from environmental considerations and from consultations with First Nations. It is in no way a departure from other statutes. We're picking up the speed is all.
I remember when I stood in that corner when the Liberal Party was the third party in the House, and they protested so strongly against Stephen Harper starting to use time allocation on bills. It had happened at that point 9 times in 40 years, then it began to be every bill. But nothing was as breathtaking from the Harper government as the programming motion put forward for C-5. I ask the Honourable Government Leader to reconsider and respect parliamentary democracy in this place.
Hear, hear.
House Leader.
Well, I thank my colleague for the question, and it is indeed an interesting question for this reason, Mr. Speaker. Canadians are asking this Parliament to act. They elected the Parliament that they did. It is a minority Parliament. It requires parties from all sides of this House to weigh in on the substance, on the issues of the day. That means that obstruction for obstruction's sake. We had a privilege motion that lasted 3 months that every member on that side knew was fake. Mr. Speaker, this government will proceed responsibly, democratically, according to the rules, but it will proceed.
Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This old, tired government creates imperatives with their inaction and then introduces half-empty measures. When will this government introduce that they are going to be repealing the oil and gas production cap?
House Leader.
It's very interesting to me, Mr. Speaker, that they get up and they decry the procedure on this very bill. They want to debate the next bill. We want to give them time to debate this bill. So I'm very interested as to why the member gets up and talks about other bills that may come before this House. Let's get down to business. Do something for unions. Do something for investors in this country. Do something for investment.
The Honourable Member for Laurentides-Labelle. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We said this is a minority government, and out of respect for democracy, there are people watching. We've just come back. A minority government means consultation. It means going through all the steps, all the democratic steps. We need to have an opportunity to debate. There's a lot of things we agree with in this bill, but, Mr. Speaker, no, we're not cutting a blank check here. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canadians did not give the Bloc the right to initiate government bills. We initiate government bills in this place. Yes, it's a minority government, and that means that they too will have to make choices. Choices that are required, choices we need to make in order to move Canada forward, move Quebec forward. They have an opportunity to move Quebec forward here. The people want it. The Bloc should want it.
To inquire from the Minister if he sincerely believes that the bill will meet constitutional scrutiny. We know that the bill prescribes that projects of national importance will essentially be treated as a foregone conclusion. We also know that the duty to consult identified by the Supreme Court has repeatedly held that it has to be in good faith. You have to consult in good faith. But how can you have a consultation in good faith when the government comes with a foregone conclusion? Does the minister truly believe that the bill will meet constitutional scrutiny?
The Minister.
Yes.
The member for Mission Matsui Abbotsford.
During the election, the Prime Minister made many references to the legislation before this House today. The expectation in British Columbia is that after this bill is passed, British Columbian farmers will be able to sell their wine in every other province and territory in Canada. Can the leader of the House for the government state clearly today, will all trade barriers for the distribution of BC wine be eliminated?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, as this member well knows, we act in federal jurisdiction. This bill eliminates federal exemptions to interprovincial trade and is an important piece of leadership as we move forward. And I would also note that that member's premier, that member's province, even that member's region have come to various arrangements that facilitate just that. And yes, we would like Okanagan.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a sad moment for democracy. I can see it in the faces of the Liberals even. Many are uncomfortable with what's going on here. Not only does every bill need study, what's more, depending on how significant the changes proposed are, we need to debate and inform the public. The role of the opposition in a democracy, despite what the member opposite is saying, we are here to inform people, to ask questions, and what they're doing this morning is preventing us from doing that. The Honourable Minister, 30 seconds. Mr. Speaker, the member, I believe, is repeating the same question. I think it's a bit exaggerated. We, on this side, have members who are very excited at the prospect of keeping such an important election promise. This is what we promised Quebecers. We promised major projects, major development that will create jobs and investments in Quebec and all across Canada.